Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it. What's going on? Thank you guys. First and foremost, I want to thank the Glazier family, Jason, Mike, and of course Coach Bowles for giving me this opportunity. It's not something I take lightly, something I've been preparing for my entire life. And with the group of gentlemen that are in the back, and Sarah as well, that we look forward to this season, being able to take this thing to the next level. And in addition to that, of course, I want to thank my family, my parents, Kevin Elvin Grizzard, and my brother, Elijah Grizzard, for their support from being a kid, loving this game, being able to play in college, and then ultimately being able to coach. So without them, I couldn't be here. But once again, thank you to the organization. I'm looking forward to it. It's a great opportunity with great people, and let's take this thing to the next level.
Open up for questions.
Josh, you're talking about taking this to the next level. And that's one of the things that Todd Bowles said in his press release about your hiring is that he liked what he had to say about how you're going to improve what was already a very successful offense. Can you share some of those concepts or ideas?
Absolutely. The continuity of having the staff and the players together is the most important part, because we can go from installing an offense to naming plays and route concepts and halfback footwork to just know now, once we hit the field, that's the base level. What we did on the fundamentals, we can now evolve to the next level of the teaching of coverages, of D-line technique. That way that we can now expand the scheme, continue to add from around the league, add from college. That way we continue to put pressure on the defense to try to score points.
You mentioned evolution. This team had to evolve a lot based on the available personnel because of a lot of injuries this past year. I guess how can that kind of help you guys?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, with that, as coaches, we need to be able to adjust the scheme. It could be on a yearly basis. It could be on a weekly basis to put the players in the position to score points. So that's what we're tasked to do. And now having another offseason to be able to add to that and add different pieces, we feel like last year was just the foundation to be able to take it to the next level.
Josh, you come from a coaching tree going back to Miami with Coach McDaniel and then working under Coach Cohen last season. Is there anything that maybe you picked up from either of them that you're going to try to implement into calling plays now for the Bucs this season?
For sure. I would say first, thank you to Mike and giving me the opportunity to stay in Miami with him when he came on as a head coach. Without the 2 years under him and his scheme and his commitment to fundamentals, I wouldn't have been where I was in a position last year to be able to get this job. So then taking that knowledge and working with Liam to implement the things that we did in Miami, it could have been under Mike, or I was under 3 head coaches there. I think 6 offensive coordinators. So taking some of those to add to what Liam had done, we were able to, as well as the rest of the staff and where they had been, and to try to get on the same page and call things the same way and emphasize the same fundamentals. I think that really helped us build a solid foundation in the spring that we were able to use in the fall.
Josh, how would you describe your coaching philosophy as a whole?
End of the day, we want to be physical. We want to be physical because the trenches win. And when you're able to run the ball and you're able to press on a defense for 4 quarters, that's what wins ball games. We also want to be multiple. It could be a week where we need to throw the ball more, we need to run the ball more. We want to, like last year, the guys get hurt. How do you have someone step up? So we want to attack, and through that, it's back on the players to do their part. When the scheme you saw last year, we're able to change plays at the line of scrimmage. We're able to can third downs. We're able to change things in a low red. So by doing that, we put the pressure on the defense, but it's the players that have to put the work in during the week so that you can do that and not just go call a play and just say, hey, we'll run it and see what happens.
Josh, I think it's fair to say that Baker Mayfield endorsed your promotion. What does that mean to you? What's your relationship with him, and what's your respect for him as a player?
It means the world to me. Without knowing him going into this time last year when I was brought on, he was one of the first people to FaceTime me when I got the job. I know I have the support of him. I was in every meeting with him last year, whether game plan meetings, on the field, going through individual with Thad and Liam and Jordan. So to take our relationship to the next level and be able to lean on him and him take that next step as a leader, being in the league this long, and now he can shoulder more of the burden to elevate the younger guys, coach the younger guys. That way he's another extension of the coaching staff on the field. So he's been fantastic. You know, he's a competitor, and we're looking forward to it.
What's it like having him under center for you?
Love him, because you know what you're getting every day. You know he's going to compete. He's not going to back down from anything. When it gets tough, that's when he's at his best. And that you can't say that about a lot of people, but you know what you're getting from him. And he loves to win, and he loves to compete. And I like to look at myself the same way, so it's a pretty good marriage.
You spent time in your career up in the box and on the field. Are you going to be on the field this time?
It's a good question. As of right now, I'm not positive on that. We're going to work through the spring and the training camp to determine that. What's the best way to go about that? For now, I couldn't say either one. I've been on the field, coaching the receivers, handling the substitutions. I've been in the box, helping Liam last year communicate coverages, things of that nature. So we'll just see how it goes. I've even talked to Coach Bowles about having more opportunities in practice to call plays live in the spring as well as the fall to try to get as many reps as possible before we get into the season.
You haven't had a chance to call plays. I don't know at what level, if any, but neither did Liam until you got the NFL. You've done it in Kentucky. What is that challenge? And did your it kind of gave you third down last year, and you guys were first in the league. Does the game planning and the experience you got kind of help you make that transition to it's going to be yours now?
For sure. As a coach, when you first get into this thing, all you're doing is breaking down tape, running a scout team, and then when you're coaching a position, you're running a room, and you're not thinking about any of that. But over the last, I would say 2 to 3 years, I've started to think about that. What would I call here? Or if you're designing a play, you better be confident in calling the play because you can't just, hey, it's a good play, but we're not going to call it in the game. So that has evolved in my mind, and then this past season took that to another level, going from a receiver coach to a QC to now being back in this or being in this pass game coordinator role. So when we built the plays, there was something I had constant dialogue with Liam on. Here's the sequence of the plays. Here's probably the best play to start the series with. And that's the entire coaching staff as well. It's not just us two. It can be anybody. And then to your point on the third downs, because you're breaking it up in certain windows, the players have a good idea, or at least Baker has a good idea. When you're getting into that third down window, this is what we're expecting out of this. Or now they hit us with this coverage, how are we going to combat that the next time? So I was able to do that last year, and I'm confident in my ability to prepare that way. That way it gives me as many reps as possible to go out to score some points for these guys.
Coach,
Coach, what was your in-game role last year? What did you do on game days?
Yeah, so I was in the booth, of course, like we just said. I was communicating really to Liam what the coverages were. Are they giving us something that we're not expecting going into the week? It could be a pressure, it could be a coverage. And what are the best plays to potentially get to moving forward based on what the defense has given us up to that point?
Continuity is key, and a lot of Bucs players are excited about that. But how are you going to change this offense to make it your own? Is there terminology that's going to be different? What do you plan on adding, taking out that kind of morphs into your offense?
The continuity will remain essentially the same. What you want to do, like we did last year, is morph it to the players, especially you can morph after the draft like it was last year or in season based on who's hurt or who's not. But we want to keep the root of that the same because that takes as much time as anything. With that said, I do think you have to evolve every year because now there's a full season of tape on what we did here, and now people are studying that. We can go from the college ranks, we can do studies from around the league to put our unique spin on it. There's definitely things I've done in my past that I want to add to it to continue to apply pressure. But I think the last thing you want is to be able to get stagnant, but now we can take it to the next level.
Any of those things that you want to add to it or take away you care to share or anything?
At this point, not really on adding to it, or we'll see during the season. But
Josh, you were talking about some call-up periods with Todd Bowles. He did that with Dave Canales to help him kind of get assimilated. Is that something that you and Coach Bowles talked about during the interview process?
It is. It is. We not one of the first things, but we did discuss it in terms of ways to allow practice to feel like a game. We always talk about it with the players. So for the first time being in that position to call plays, the amount of reps, like anything in any walk of life, is invaluable. So I look forward to that because I have a lot of friends that say it's the most fun thing in the world. So.
What was your reaction when you found out that you were the guy? Because they brought in a lot of really bright, young, exciting, guys that could have put a unique spin on this offense as well. But they said, nope, we realize the best guy is the guy that we have in-house already.
I was, of course, fired up because it's something I wanted to do my entire life. And just to get the offensive coordinator job was something I wanted, but because of the people in the building, from Jason all the way through Todd, through the guys in the back, that's what makes it great. It's the people. You hear it all the time. But just knowing the foundation we had in place to get to stay here with great people, great players who care about each other and care about the game, that was what's the most exciting part to me.
Should we assume, Josh, that you will be a big advocate for trying to get Chris Godwin back in this building for next season?
I love Chris. As you guys know, Chris is as good of a human being and football players you're going to be around. He was a huge asset to us last year, being a coach on the field and playing all those different roles. I think he's leading the league in catches, yards after catch when he got hurt. And I love Chris to death. But Jason and Todd, they have a proven track record with the roster here, so I'm going to let those guys handle that.
You added a coach who coached you at one point in Kafense Hinson. What does he bring to this offense? Why was he someone that you wanted to bring in here to serve as your new pass game coordinator?
Yeah, so Kafense was the offensive coordinator when I was at Yale, and I played safety at Yale. So at the time, I knew I wanted to potentially get into coaching, and he was allowing me to go sit in the meeting rooms with him, watching tape with the quarterbacks and the receivers to try to understand their side of the ball. So from that time, I learned a ton of football from him while in college, and then when I made that decision to get into coaching, he was someone's been a mentor for me for, I guess, upwards of 15 years now. And that can be schematically, it could be in life, it could be in, hey, this job's a good job, bad job, on what you should take and what you shouldn't take. And then he has a proven history of what he's done in college as well. Great human being, family man, works hard, and I know he's going to be a big asset, not to only myself, but most importantly to the players and the rest of the people on the team.
Speaking of the people that have impacted your life as a coach, you've been part of a lot of really unique coaching trees. What have you taken from each of those stops that you can apply going forward?
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot. I would say going back to high school, I have to give an appreciation for Coach Jimmy Williams at Eastlake High School. Coaching me, that's where I had a love of the game, instilling a toughness and accountability that I try to still uphold today. And then being able to play at the college level. Tony Reno, who's the head coach at Yale, he recruited me as a freshman. That staff got fired, so he came back as the head coach at the end of my 5th year that allowed me to coach. So he was huge, and learning from him. And then I couldn't have had a better opportunity to start coaching than at Duke University under David Cutcliffe. The foundation that he laid, the way he ran a program, the way that he recruited people, the way that he coached the coaches, was hard on the coaches. I couldn't have had a better start in that. And then from there, John Latino, who was his offensive line coach at Duke, was friends with Clyde Christensen, who you guys know here. They allowed me to have an opportunity to interview with Adam Gase. And I appreciate Adam Gase for bringing me on to Miami, giving me my first opportunity to coach in the NFL, learned a ton from him. And then to Brian Flores for allowing me to coach a position for the first time. And then to Mike, like I just talked about taking the scheme to the next level, was invaluable for me. And then ultimately to Liam in our conversations this time last year to be able to feel like I had a chance to come here and help him out. So there was a lot of them. Like I said, I think there was 6 coordinators in Miami. So take the good and the bad and try to just take the good.
You saw firsthand the type of season that Baker just had. It was a career year, really, across the board. What, if anything, specifically was Baker doing that led him to be so successful, and how do you implement that into next season as well?
What he was able to do was take what we were installing in the classroom and to apply it to the practice field, and then communicate that out to the O-line, the halfbacks, receivers, get everyone on the same page, and then put in the work behind the scenes to be able to go out and execute on game day so that the practice execution can become game reality. So with him being able to put that work in and get everyone on the same page and try to take practice fundamentals to the game, that's where you see a lot of his success, and that's what it'll take to take it to the next level moving forward as well.
Was there a point where you felt you were ready for this job? Was it before you got to Tampa? Was it midway through last year? Can you take us through that?
I don't know if there was a specific time where I said I was ready, but I would say 2 years ago, I really started thinking like a coordinator. When you're in the booth and you're looking at coverages and just doing your mundane QC work, you start to think, okay, what do I call next? What do I call next? What's this situation? Whatever it might be. So over the last 2 years, trying to think in that way to prepare myself for this day.
Is there more you can put on Baker's shoulder? Is there more that he can handle maybe at the line, maybe at responsibilities, now that he's coming into an offense where he's actually got continuity for just the second time in his career?
Absolutely, because that's why it's so great to have the continuity of the scheme and the coaching staff, so that his baseline knowledge of what we're trying to get done is there, and now we can put more on him to potentially get us out of a bad play or adjust something that we hadn't prepared for That way, it's just something that is built in, and it's not something we have to actually give him a play call.
Josh, you were talking about football is one of the trenches that starts up front with your offensive line. Can you speak about the run game coordinator title that Kevin Carberry has and Brian Capucci getting elevated? Just having those two guys here with you going into your first year as a play caller, what that means?
Absolutely. It was paramount. Having those guys back, the way they work together, the way they communicate with the players, the way they were to evolve the scheme from us coming in here, I guess, in April of last year thinking it was going to be an 11 personnel outfit into adjusting was great. Being able to adjust to Luke going down, to Tristan going down, getting Graham up to speed as quick as possible was huge. So I have all the confidence in the world in those guys, and it's just great to have them back. Like we talked about the other system is just taking it to the next level.
Plan on adding any coaches?
You were only here for a year, but you've got assistants that have been on this staff for a while that are in the back of this room showing their support for you. What does that mean to be able to come into an organization and have that kind of buy-in like that?
It means the world to me because, as they know, it's not short hours here. So we're in there all day. We see each other more than our families. So to have the continuity and trust them, and they know we have each other's backs and they have the players' backs, it's a relationship business, and the people in this building make it go, and it's something I know I'm fired up to be working with again.
Lost John Van Dam to the Jaguars, but do you plan on adding any other coaches to the staff, or you feel you're good with what you have now?
Yeah, I just saw that. It's something that me and Coach Bowles and the rest of the offensive staff will have a chance to discuss and see what we want to do with that moving forward.
The players at the Pro Bowl came out, and other players who spoken to or whatnot have come out with just glaring praise for you. What does that mean to know that you have your assistants back here, but also the players in your corner excited for you as well?
It means the world because they at least know that they trust me and that I trust them and I have their best interest at heart. That's aside from football and the schematics and trying to win games, is that they know that I care about them and they care about me, and they're also confident in my ability to take this thing to the next level. Okay, there's the ground floor on what we're trying to accomplish here, which is ultimately a Super Bowl, and we fell short. So to hear that from them, that's why you do this game and try to help them as much as possible.
Can you describe what your interview was like with Coach Bowles, maybe a little bit about what it focused on?
Yeah, what we touched on was really my vision from essentially today moving forward, whether it be with the offensive roster, how would I do schedules differently, how would practice be conducted differently, like we talked about with the potential call-it periods, being in the booth on game day. So we went through my vision of it as well as a little bit of the intricacies on things that I wanted to keep the same and adjust that's more of behind-the-scenes coaching level.
Do you feel like you have an advantage kind of coming into this as a first-time play caller, knowing that you had a list of coordinators that you're under with Chad O'Shea, Frank Smith, Chan Gailey, Adam Gaze. So a lot of offensive minds you've been around, obviously Liam last year. Does it feel like you have like a deep bag you can reach into that maybe other coaches wouldn't have if they didn't have that experience?
George Godsey, Eric Studesville, we can go all day. Definitely, because you see what the things that, when you're a coach, you believe in core principles or core plays. So if you're able to pull from those guys' favorite plays and things that they know like the back of their hand, and they know the adjustments to them, to be able to take that from each of them to try to implement, I think is huge. And then there's potentially a positive of not being a play caller before, where you don't necessarily have the tendencies of someone that's been calling it for 20 years.
You look at the NFL, 32 teams, right? But in college football, there's over 100 schools with different offenses and schemes. How much do you look at the college game and what's taking place there and steal or borrow, some plays and ideas?
Steal's probably the best term. A bunch, because just watching games on Saturdays, and you might see something they just ran and it's at the 2-minute mark in the third quarter, and you write it down and then go look at it on film the next day. And really what you get is this time of the year, when you start watching college prospects, you start to see concepts and things that they're utilizing, and you try to see if it's a fit for us. So whether it's from college or from the pro game, we try to watch as much tape as possible to take from other people.
What was it like for you? What was it like for you kind of watching this round game evolve? Maybe coming in, you think it's a mid-zone team, and you still do a lot of that, or wide zone, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, this team's gotten really good at gap running. And Like, just what's it like kind of witnessing that evolution and being part of that? And then how do you build on that for next year? And shout out to Bucky Irving, who's here
For sure.
as well.
It's great to see. It's great to see because you know that you're molding the offense to fit the skill set of the players, which is what we're tasked to do. So it also puts a pressure on the defense if you can be multiple in your run game style. If you have multiple runs out of a 12 personnel or the package where Bucky and Rashad are on the field at the same time, because then you don't necessarily have as many tendencies when you go into that game. So being able to evolve and try to stay ahead of what coordinators were trying to do to us, I think is huge, and that will always be huge.
How much are you looking forward to being more involved in the draft process coming up as an offensive coordinator? Got a bunch of holes to fill in offense, but just to be a part of the process with Jason, the scouts, and Tom.
I'm really looking forward to it because it's a lot like going from a QC to a coordinator. You might just be breaking down film, or if you're the receivers coach, you're really just evaluating the receivers. So to be able, even last year, being able to evaluate the receivers and the tight ends and the halfbacks and the quarterbacks, and of course this year being able to add to the O-line is big just because you understand what's happening in college football. You're able to have an evaluation on those players and really personally being able to think, okay, where did I miss on this guy or not, or hit on that guy to try to adjust your decision-making moving forward. And just like anything else, when you have those many reps to be able to do that, you should allow yourself to become better at it.
What clicked for Jalen McMillan the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season?
For one, he had to get back from being hurt. He had the hammy issue, and he was out for a couple games. But what really took off for J-Mac was the practice execution becoming the game reality, in that he was executing at a high level in practice and treating it like a game. And so therefore there's confidence to throw the ball to him in the game. And then when he had success at it, then when you go back to game plan the next week, what can we do to get the ball back in his hands again? So when that starts to snowball in a good fashion, you saw his season take off. So the goal now is to continue where he left off and now be someone that we can rely on and get the ball in his hands as much as possible.
What were some of the other things, aside from being in the booth and calling out coverages to Liam and working on the third down packages? What were some of the other things you were tasked or charged to do to help Liam in the offense?
I would help him try to get ahead with each portion of the game plan. So we break up the game planning on first and second down plays, third down plays, red area plays. So I was able to, and then we divvy that up amongst the staff. It's a very collaborative effort, so that once he gets to that portion of the game plan, that we were able to whittle down exactly what we wanted to do. So that was the biggest role, but it could be helping script practice as the week goes on, like we were talking about in play calling, numbering the plays in order to, we want to get this off the sheet as quick as possible. And so and then it would move into the game day role of communicating the coverages and the next plays.
Was there a particular game or kind of a particular play where you just felt like just really proud to have been part of that? It could have been, halftime adjustments, or just kind of, it even can be multiple.
Mike Evans' catch.
Yeah, being part of that?
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
That was very cool. That was amazing.
Josh, just as you get this job, what's the best piece of advice that you've learned since accepting the position?
Keep your phone charged. No, it's just cool to hear from multiple people that you haven't heard from in forever, the support of coaches you work with, and like a lot with these guys, it's really cool to hear from the players too. Just you haven't talked to in 3 to 4 years, could be even longer, that are appreciative of what you did for them and looking forward to the next step. But just catching up with people and just talking to them, and then ultimately trying to help them out. It's always a tough time of year for coaches with hirings and firings, so you want to be able to help guys as much as possible.
It all starts with the guys in front of Mayfield. Josh, what's your feelings about those 5 guys from left to right, and keeping Bredesen, or just your feelings about the whole unit?
Yeah, I would say going into this interview process for myself last year, I hadn't watched a ton of the Bucs, but one of the first things you turned on when I was deciding, okay, let me take a look at the roster here, was how talented the O-line was. And being able to add Breads and be able to add Graham through the draft was huge. Those guys set the tone, like we talked about on what we want to hang our hat on, is run the ball and being physical, and those guys embody that. So from a day-to-day basis, seeing the work that they put in, player-only meetings, quarterback-player meetings, halfback, quarterback, O-line meetings, that's how you want it to be built, and it's a testament to Jason how he's built this thing.
Josh, how would you
Couple
assess the tight end room? You had guys like Cade Otton step up in the middle of the season, as well as Payne Durham and Devin Cole really make that leap at the end.
Yeah, Cade was really good for us, and especially being able to step up into that role once Chris went down was huge, and it's hats off to him because he was doing the work behind the scenes already. You guys have seen around here for a number of years, but to get that opportunity to make the most of it was huge. I thought Payne, for the same reason, when Cade went down, being able to step up, have a couple low red touchdowns, he brought an element of physicality, and Payne loves to practice, loves to compete, keeps it light. And then for Dev to be able to take that step as well, where now he had a chance to go in there. He made some massive plays in the last 2 to 3 games trying to get into the playoffs. And it's just a start for him. Look forward to having a full offseason to work with him. You guys have seen it. He can run. He can make plays after the catch. So the future is bright for Dev as well.
And what you did under Liam Cohen staff, but what did you learn from him in the way that he game planned, how he went about his week, how he was able to draw plays, and kind of the way that he looked at the offense philosophically?
I have a ton of respect for how he did it because people come up here and talk all the time about the marriage of the run and the pass game, and is very good at a podium. But when you hang your hat on that in the meeting room and you try to do that on game day as well, he really believes in that, and I'm aligned in that as well. And so then just seeing him on a day-to-day basis, how he communicated with the players, with the coaches, his love for the game. He was the son of a coach. So learned a ton from him when it came to that. And then on game day, just seeing he wasn't afraid to let it rip and challenge the defense, and I appreciated that.
Speaking of the running game, you inherit an embarrassment of riches at the running back. 3 deep there. I think most teams would love to have that. But it can be kind of a problem, too, only one ball. Is that a problem that you're looking forward to solving and trying to figure out? Good problem to have.
Good problem to have. Good problem to have. No, they're all deserving. You can see what Bucky did by being able to step into that role and set the tone. Rashad was in there 3 down back, did an unbelievable job getting the ball in his hands and making people miss, holding up in 3rd down protections. And I know he's going to take that to the next level. We want to involve both of those guys even more in the actual drop back passing game, trying to get it to them, not just being perimeter screens and things of that nature. And then you saw what Tuck did, especially in the New Orleans game with his opportunity. So there's a spot for him to add on to what he's done, and he's deserving of getting the ball in his hands because ultimately he had some production when he did it.
Josh, the crew's watching live right now. Do you have any message to Bucs fans who are watching this press conference, excited for the next season?
Absolutely. I'm fired up. You guys know the foundation that's in place. We didn't come here to go to the playoffs and lose a home game, so we're trying to take it to the next level, try to bring a championship back to Tampa, and I'm fired up to be here and try to lead this unit down the road.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.